Previously on Featherstone Bicycles. So now that the front wheel is completely disassembled and cleaned, it's time to put it all back together. That's what's happening on this episode of Featherstone Bicycles. We'll start the reassembly process with the quick release skewer. First thing we're going to do is put some Phil Woods tenacious oil on the parts, just a little dab here and there. Parts that move. The end cap here, skewer fits into that. There's only one way to do it right, and you'll know it right away. You put it in, put the quick release in, through it, and if it doesn't turn, you know you've done it the wrong way. So just flip that around. Now stick it through, and you see it turns all the way, and that the end cap is moving up and down. So we put our our lock washer on, and our nut. Tighten that down. And there you go. The only other thing to do with this right now, just to keep it all together, is to put one spring on this way, the other spring on the opposite way, put a little bit of Finish Line dry Teflon bike lube on the threads. Screw that on. That's it. Next, we're going to work on the axle housing and the axle. I've already put in one side of the ball bearings, and we'll thread this, put some Finish Line Teflon on there. get the cone started. Put some grease on the cone. Another top tip from RJ, the bike guy, this handy little grease gun for working on small parts. I'll put a link to his video where he describes this and where to get it. I'm going to shoot some grease into the other side race. Put the 10 ball bearings in on this side. Okay. Now we screw down the other side. Put a little grease on this cone. And now get that screwed down. Trying to get the axle evenly spaced. Screw down the cone nut hand tight and then back it off about 1/4 of a turn so that this plays freely, but there's not too much backlash, I guess you would call it. Tighten it just a little bit. Still got a little bit of play there. Tighten it just a little bit more. Moves freely. Tiny bit more. That's good. Now we'll put just a dab more the Teflon on there. First thing we do is get the washer on, then the safety latch, and then the nut. There's a little part that sticks out. That part goes in, faces down, which will go inside the ring, hold the ring of the safety latch in place. And then do the other side. Got the 14 millimeter on the cone and the 16 millimeter on the nut. Locking it down. Make sure everything still spins okay. It's actually a little rough. I'm gonna have to back that off a little bit. That seems good. Get the reflector put together. That's good to go. Okay, it's time to start the rethreading process. Line up all the spokes, the thread sides, and lubricate those threads with the finish line Teflon. A little bit easier to do it this way than all of them individually. All right, so now we consult our drawing, which we did when we were taking it apart, before we took it apart. And hopefully we can figure out the right way to put this back together. I've got the valve stem hole down here at the bottom, and recall, line this up with any hole, and then go for the fourth hole there, to the right of that hole, and this is going to be an under. So it goes in, and then it comes under that, and then it is the second hole to the right of the valve stem hole. So we'll put a nipple on that. Just threaded enough to secure it. Now the next one was back down to this starting place hole, and then we went to the third hole to this side, and that one was an over, so that comes from underneath, and then it goes over. Let's just check that again here. 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. Okay, and that one goes just one hole to the left of the valve stem hole. Get that on there. Then the next one, this is a bit of a tricky part, because you've got to line this side of the housing up with the other side to figure out what's happening. And I think I misspoke on the previous video when I said that the hole where the one that was in between, I think I said it was the next one up. It's actually the next one down. So the hole on the other side comes right about here. And as I line that up and look at that, I see that is this hole right here, and that one is an over. So I'm going to put it in from this side, and that one comes to the hole that is just one to the right of the valve stem hole. And then lining this up again, it's the hole that is, I spoke correctly on the video last time, one up from this one to this one. So it's right about here on the other side. And that one goes under. So it comes in from this side, from the outside, comes down, and that goes to the hole that is just to the left of this one, which was just to the left of the valve stem hole. Now, hopefully I did that right. And then the next thing to know is that it goes over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. So I've got that right. So over, under, over. So I'm going to put this one in. And then we count 4 from the previous over. So not counting the valve stem hole again. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's this hole right here. And then we can just keep on doing the same thing. But I'm going to start with the unders because I think that's the easier way to go. So here's an under, so there'll be an under here. And here is this hole, so this one's going to go in 1, 2, 3, 4 away from that. Alrighty. I'm just checking the, it's going to be tough to see, but I'm checking the dish here, which is the angle at which the spokes are coming out from the center to the rim, because the axle housing is wider than the rim. It should be evenly spaced between the two. It's going to be impossible to see on the camera, but you just want to check that angle and make sure you've got somewhat of a balanced system there. So next we'll get it on the truing stand and then the real fun begins. Okay, now that we've got all the spokes correctly laced into the rim, we're going to put it on the truing stand here, and first get the axle lined up in the holes at the top, then use this lever to tighten it. You can see how that works. And then the way the truing stand works is these pinchers are adjusted with a knob down here, and we want to move them out, or down I should say, so that the points are lined up right with the edge of the rim. And then the way it works is that we're going to, as you tighten or loosen this, these pinchers move in and out, then you're able to find out in real small increments whether the rim is shifting one way or the other from the true center, which is locked in here at the axle. So the first thing we're going to do, because you want to make sure that this is all done evenly, is get the nipples all tightened up to the same point. And there's probably different ways of doing this, but the way that I do it, the way that I learned how to do it, is to get the end of the nipple, see if I can get in a little bit closer here, to get the end of the nipple all the way up to where the thread of the spoke has just disappeared. And do that on every one all the way around, and then you'll know that you've got everything evenly spaced. So I'm going to use a screwdriver to do that. And again, this is where that little bit that goes into a drill that I was talking about in the last video would come in handy, but I don't have that bit. So I'm going to start by the valve stem hole just so I can keep track of where I am, and start to turn these in to where the threads just disappear. Okay, so now that all the nipples are screwed in evenly to just where the threads on the spokes have disappeared, we're ready to start the truing, fine-tuning the truing process, I should say. So you can see I've got the tips of the clamps, or whatever we want to call these, about 1/4 of an inch away from each side of the rim. But if I turn the wheel now at this point, you'll be able to see it's traveling back and forth between these 2 points. And what's going to happen now is that we're going to move this closer and closer until it starts to rub. There we go. And on the left-hand side. So what this means is that the spokes that are coming from the left-hand side are too tight, and the spokes that are coming from the right-hand side are too loose. So we're going to have to make some adjustments along this line right here with 2, 3, 4 spokes on either side of, two spokes on either side of this point, until that's not touching and it's more it's traveled more to the middle. And then we'll keep on going, and the process is quite tedious and takes a long time, and is definitely more art than science at this point. So we'll start with unloosening a whole turn, this one, and tightening the next one up a whole turn, tightening this one up a whole turn, still, we're going to loosen it, and then tighten these two Okay, so it's not touching anymore, but you can see it's still so close to that this point here that it's far from perfect. So keep on going. Now you can see it's traveling more to the middle. And we're not hearing anything, so we're going to turn this a little bit. There we go. We just heard a little bit. Maybe turn it a little bit more. There we go, right there. So we're going to tighten this one on this side. Full turn and loosen the other two on either side of it, the two on either side of it, I should say. A full turn. Okay, so I think we've got it to where we want it. Give the wheel a spin. We don't hear anything. Those pinchers are very close. They're less than probably a 32nd of an inch from the edges of the rims. So we're good to go. I've checked the tension on all the spokes just by feeling them, pressing them together, and they're solid. One last check that I want to do is just make sure that the dish is right, that the outside rims are of the axle housing is equally spaced to the right and the left of the center. I'll just show that maybe right there. We've got about an equal spacing on either side. So as you can see, this is a fairly tedious process, what with the lacing of the spokes into the wheel and then getting it on the truing stand. But it's well worth it. It's very rewarding to know that you've put it back together correctly and that it's going to be a nice bike to ride. One of the things I would recommend if you're going to try this yourself, there's a few videos out there that show you how to do this without a truing stand like this, which this one is from Park Tool. I wouldn't recommend that. When I did my first bicycle more than 15 years ago, I tried some of the methods that were on videos out there, and it did not end up with good results. So this is one tool that you need to invest in. Park Tool has a kind of two different models. One's a more professional type for people who are doing this all day, every day. This is just the lower priced one. Still, having said that, it's not cheap, but you need this in order to do this job right. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. And thanks for sticking with me, and I hope to see you next week on Featherstone Bicycles.